History doesn't always change slowly. Sometimes, it changes in a single strike. For decades, one man stood at the center of Middle Eastern power, war, religion, and resistance. A leader protected by layers of intelligence, elite guards, and secrecy. Yet global reports began asking one shocking question. How was Iran's leader killed? And if it really happened?
حضرت آیت الله العظما سید علی حسینی خامنه‌ای.
Who was powerful enough to do it? Ever wonder who really pulls the strings in Iran? Forget the presidents you see on the news. For over 3 decades, one man held the ultimate power. His name is Ali Khamenei, and as Supreme Leader, he was arguably the most powerful figure in the Entente. And as Supreme Leader, he was arguably the most powerful figure in the entire Middle East. But how did he get there? And what did his rule truly mean for Iran and the world? Let's dive deep into the story of the man who shaped a nation. Unlike a president or a prime minister, Khomeini wasn't elected by a popular vote. His authority stemmed from a complex system born out of Iran's 1979 Islamic Revolution. He was chosen by a small, powerful body of clerics known as the Assembly of Experts. Once in power, he was there for life. This position of Supreme Leader, or Robber in Persian, granted him final say on literally everything. We're talking about war and peace, the country's controversial nuclear program, and its entire foreign policy. He was the commander-in-chief of all armed forces, from the regular army to the powerful Revolutionary Guards. He also controlled the judiciary, the state media, and vast economic foundations, giving him an iron grip on the country. Khamenei's journey to the top wasn't straightforward. He began as a key disciple of the revolution's founder, Ayatollah Khomeini. In the early days, he served as Iran's president during the brutal Iran-Iraq War. But it was after Khomeini's death in 1989 that he was unexpectedly chosen as the successor at the time. He wasn't even a top-ranking cleric, and his selection was a surprise to many. But he quickly consolidated his power, navigating the treacherous waters of Iranian politics to become the unchallengeable authority he was for more than 30 years. Under his long leadership, Iran underwent a dramatic transformation. Khomeini steered the country on a path of confrontation with the West, particularly the United States, which he often called the Great Satan. He championed a policy of resistance, supporting a network of allied groups and militias across the Middle East, from Hezbollah in Lebanon to factions in Iraq, Syria, and Yemen. This network, often called the Axis of Resistance, allowed Iran to project its power far beyond its borders, effectively challenging the influence of its main regional rivals, Israel and Saudi Arabia. This strategy turned Iran into a formidable regional power, but it also came at a tremendous cost, isolating the country and bringing crippling international sanctions down upon its people. Domestically, Khamenei's rule was marked by a tight control over Sasani, while Iran held presidential and parliamentary elections. His guardian council had the power to vet and disqualify any candidate deemed not loyal enough to the Islamic system. This effectively ensured that no one who, fundamentally, challenged his authority could ever come to power. He presided over periods of intense internal dissent, like the 2009 Green Movement protests, which were met with a harsh crackdown. For many Iranians, especially the youth and women, his era represented a time of limited social freedoms and economic hardship, as sanctions and mismanagement crippled the economy. Internationally, Khomeini's legacy is defined by the nuclear issue. he consistently maintained that Iran's nuclear program was for peaceful energy purposes only. But the world remained deeply suspicious. He gave the green light for the 2015 nuclear deal with world powers. For over 3 decades, Ali Khamenei was the most powerful figure in Iran. As supreme leader, he controlled Iran's military, intelligence agencies, judiciary, and foreign policy. Unlike presidents, Khamenei was not elected by the public. His authority came from Iran's revolutionary system, giving him final say over war, peace, and nuclear strategy. Under his leadership, Iran transformed into a regional power, challenging the influence of United States and Israel through proxy wars, cyber operations, and missile development. Military experts describe a decapitation strike as an operation designed to remove a nation's leadership in one precise blow. If such an operation were executed, it would require real-time intelligence insider confirmation. Airspace dominance and absolute secrecy analysts suggest that a combination of cyber disruption, electronic warfare, and precision-guided weapons could temporarily blind air defenses, creating a narrow window for a targeted strike. This would not be a random attack. It would be calculated, surgical, final. In the intricate tapestry of modern geopolitics, few figures cast as long a shadow as Ali Khamenei. For decades, he stood at the helm of the Islamic Republic of Iran, a leader whose influence radiated far beyond his nation's borders. He was not just a political figure. He was a symbol, interpreted in starkly different ways by a deeply divided world, to his fervent supporters. Both at home and across the region, Khamenei represented the unwavering spirit of resistance against what they saw as Western dominance and imperial ambition. His image adorned posters in bustling city squares, a testament to defiance. He was the guardian of a revolutionary flame, a bulwark against foreign interference. His rhetoric, often fiery and uncompromising, resonated with millions who felt marginalized by the global order. They saw in him a leader who dared to challenge the status quo, who championed a vision of an independent and powerful Iran, steering its own destiny. However, to his adversaries, particularly in Western capitals and among regional rivals, he was viewed as the chief architect of instability. They pointed to Iran's intricate network of proxies and allies, a web of influence stretching from the Mediterranean to the Arabian Peninsula. To them, Khamenei was the mastermind behind a campaign to export revolution and disrupt the delicate balance of power in the Middle East. His name became synonymous with a foreign policy that fueled conflicts and armed militias, creating a crescent of volatility that kept the world on edge. This ideological clash was not confined to words. It manifested in a relentless, multi-front campaign against Iran. Crippling international sanctions, led by the United States, were designed to suffocate Iran's economy, strangling its oil exports and isolating it from the global financial system. The goal was to pressure the regime from within, to force a change in its behavior by inflicting economic pain on its people. Beyond the economic warfare, a clandestine battle raged in the shadows, a series of covert operations, mysterious and deniable, targeted the heart of Iran's scientific and military establishment. Nuclear scientists met untimely ends in meticulously planned assassinations, sending a chilling message to Tehran's intellectual elite. Sophisticated cyber attacks, like the infamous Stuxnet worm, sabotaged critical infrastructure, causing physical damage to nuclear facilities from thousands of miles away. Cyber warfare rooms became the new front lines, where faceless soldiers fought with lines of code. This shadow war was mirrored in the hot conflicts unfolding across the region. In the war-torn landscapes of Syria, the ancient streets of Iraq, the divided society of Lebanon, and the highlands of Yemen, Iran's influence was undeniable. Through the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps' Quds Force, Tehran armed, trained, and funded a vast network of allied militias. These proxy forces became extensions of Iranian power, fighting battles that served Tehran's strategic interests and expanding its sphere of influence, often at a devastating human cost. By the mid-2020s, these simmering tensions reached a boiling point. The years of sanctions, sabotage, and proxy wars had pushed the region. For years, analysts believed one thing was impossible: that Iran's supreme leader could ever be directly targeted. He lived under constant protection, frequently changing locations, avoiding digital exposure, and operating through closed military networks. But modern warfare had changed. Satellites see everything. Signals leave footprints, and power attracts attention. Global intelligence agencies began studying not just Iran's weapons, but its leadership vulnerabilities. This shift in thinking wasn't just theoretical. It represented a fundamental change in how global powers viewed the stability of regimes. The idea that a figurehead, once considered untouchable, could now be a point of pressure, a vulnerability, was a game changer. It moved the focus from large-scale military conflict to precision-targeted influence operations. The question was no longer if it was possible, but how it could be done and what the consequences would be. The implications were massive. Targeting a leader, even digitally or through information, could destabilize an entire nation without firing a single shot. This new era of warfare wasn't about tanks and planes. It was about data, psychology, and exploiting the very systems designed to protect the powerful. For years, analysts believed one thing was impossible: that Iran's supreme leader could ever be directly targeted. He lived under constant protection, frequently changing locations, avoiding digital exposure, and operating through closed military networks. But modern warfare had changed. Satellites see everything. Signals leave footprints, and power attracts attention. Global intelligence agencies began studying not just Iran's weapons, but its leadership vulnerabilities. This evolution in intelligence and military strategy forces us to reconsider the nature of power itself. What would happen if Iran's leader were suddenly killed? The consequences would be immediate, and they would be global. Markets would panic almost instantly. Think about the stock market. The value of currencies, everything would be thrown into turmoil. And oil prices, they would surge to unimaginable heights, affecting gas prices for every single one of us, no matter where we live in the world. Across the Middle East, military forces would be placed on maximum alert. The tension, already high, would escalate dramatically. The risk of miscalculation or a regional conflict erupting would be at an all-time high. Everyone would be on edge, waiting to see what happens next. Inside Iran itself, the power dynamics would shift rapidly. The Revolutionary Guard would likely consolidate its power, taking a more central role in the nation's governance. While there are succession mechanisms in place designed to handle such a crisis, unity would be far from guaranteed. Different factions could start vying for control, leading to internal instability. History has shown us time and again that removing a central figure, what if a major global power took out a key Iranian leader? Let's unpack the immediate fallout in such a scenario. The world would split instantly. Imagine the headlines. Allies of Iran would condemn the act, calling it an illegal assassination and an act of war. On the other side, Western powers might frame it as a necessary act of preemptive self-defense, designed to prevent future attacks. Meanwhile, what about the other major players? Russia and China would likely call for calm and restraint. But behind closed doors, you can bet they'd be furiously recalculating their strategies. In the Middle East, it would enter its most dangerous phase in decades. The death of a leader like Khamenei or it marks a turning point. It signals that no position is untouchable, that modern power is fragile, and that the rules of warfare have permanently changed. Iran's future would depend on one question: does the system survive the man, or collapse without him? Asterisk. Thanks for watching this video. If you find this video is your demand, subscribe our channel and like this window also. Press the bell icon. See you soon.